Tonight on PBS News Weekend, families forced to pay transaction fees to fund their children's school lunch accounts. Then, why extreme weather events mean an increased risk of carbon monoxide poisoning. And Paralympic wheelchair racer Tatiana McFadden on her goal to become the most decorated track athlete in history.
I am competing for every single person that has been discriminated against. Sports, for me, it brought healing. So that's what I want to bring to the other generations, as well as equality and equity for people with disabilities.
Major funding for PBS News Weekend has been provided by and with the ongoing support of these individuals and institutions. And friends of the NewsHour. This program was made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm John Yang. Aid workers began the first phase of their drive to vaccinate children against polio in Gaza, where doctors diagnosed the first case in 25 years. A small number of children got the oral vaccine today, and the UN's health agency will try to dramatically increase those numbers starting tomorrow. That's the first day of Israel's promised 3-day pause in fighting around vaccination distribution sites. In the past 24 hours, Israeli airstrikes killed 89 people and injured hundreds more. The dead include at least 6 children and a doctor sheltering with his family. As strikes continue in Gaza, Israeli Defense Forces moved into the Jenin refugee camp in the occupied West Bank. The IDF says it's searching for Hamas militants in hopes of preventing future attacks. Russia is blaming Ukraine for the deaths of 5 people in the southwestern Russian city of Belgorod. Shelling late Friday also injured at least 37 others in what Russia's foreign ministry called a terrorist attack. Belgorod is about 100 miles south of Kursk, where Ukrainian troops have pushed into Russian territory. Today, Russia responded with a guided bomb attack that killed 2 people in the Kharkiv region. It comes as Russia says it seized a settlement in Ukraine's eastern Donetsk region. Some of Japan's biggest cities are under flood warnings as Typhoon Sansan slowly moves across the island. 6 deaths and 100 injuries are being blamed on the storm. It's halted underground transportation and canceled flights. Forecasters warn of landslides in heavily populated areas before the storm weakens and moves out to open waters later this weekend. In Mississippi, National Transportation Safety Board investigators are heading to the site of a deadly bus crash. 7 people are dead and 37 injured after a bus overturned following a tire failure on Interstate 20 about 50 miles west of Jackson. Among those killed, 2 siblings ages 6 and 16. The Warren County Sheriff says many passengers were trapped when the bus ended up on its side. Former President Donald Trump is launching a new wave of attacks on Vice President Kamala Harris. In a Fox News interview, Trump called Harris anti-democratic and vicious.
I call her Comrade Kamala because she's radical left. She's a radical left Marxist. And that's what she is. And she'll destroy our country. There's not going to be any fracking in Pennsylvania. And for her whole life, there was none. She fought people like I've never seen anything like it. Look at the way she fought Justice Kavanaugh, the viciousness and the violence.
A new Fox News poll shows Harris gaining ground in 3 of 4 battleground states. Team USA is adding to its medal count at the Paralympics in Paris. 2 gold medals in the pool, Olivia Chambers in the women's 400-meter freestyle and Mallory Wegman in the women's 200-meter individual medley. On the track, a 1-2 finish for U.S. runners in the men's 100-meter, with Jaden Blackwell setting a world record. Right now, Team USA is in 6th place overall in the medal count. China is leading the pack with the most gold medals and the most medals overall. Still to come on PBS News Weekend, why power outages can mean a greater risk of carbon monoxide poisoning. And our weekend spotlight with 8-time Paralympic gold medalist Tatiana McFadden.
This is PBS News Weekend from WETA Studios in Washington, home of the PBS NewsHour, weeknights on PBS.
With the average cost of school lunches nationally between $55 and $60 a month, schools are increasingly turning to online payment systems. They're run by payment processing companies which typically charge transaction fees. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau looked at the 300 biggest U.S. public school districts and estimates that the fees can amount to as much as $42 in a school year, and families qualifying for reduced price meals may be paying 60 cents in fees for every dollar spent. Cora Lewis is an Associated Press business reporter who covers money and inequality. Cora, tell us, how do these fees work?
Sure. So the fees typically work in that they take place when parents are transferring money to their students' school lunch accounts. So it's not at the point of sale, it's when parents are loading up their kids for the week or for the school year. And when the transaction fees can be as high as $3.25 a transaction or 4 or 5%, those really add up over the course of a year.
They add up over the course of a year. We spoke with the mother of a sixth grader talking about how it adds up for her. Let's take a listen.
$2.50 doesn't seem like a big deal, but if you're struggling, $2.50 is a school lunch. Or if you're having to pay that twice in a week, that's $5. That's a quarter of a tank of gas. You know, it's a big deal. And unless you're looking for it, you don't really notice it.
Corey, I know you've talked to other parents. Is that typically what you've heard?
Yes, that's exactly right. The way the system works, it means that parents who have fewer resources end up paying more fees more frequently because they can't necessarily afford to load up their kids' accounts with hundreds of dollars once. They have to pay as they go.
What other groups of parents are perhaps disproportionately affected by this?
Yeah, so I think you mentioned people who qualify for free or reduced lunch end up paying a disproportionate amount of fees despite qualifying for what should be subsidized meals. So there are these ways in which you're really penalized for not having enough money to work the system.
So in other words, a parent who can afford to pay maybe a week or a month at a time will pay the fee just those times, but a parent who's living paycheck to paycheck, who has to put in the money over a short term, gets hit every time?
That's exactly right.
Now, the Agriculture Department says that schools that participate in the school nutrition program, which is about all of them, have to have a free method for putting money into these accounts. So how do they get around this? Are they there and are they used?
Yes, so technically the fee-free option should be available at every public school district. You should be able to pay by cash or by check. But these payment processors, they really have a captive audience because it's just massively inconvenient to have to walk over to the school office and write a check or pay by cash, especially when you might be a family that already doesn't have the time or the money to take on another logistical challenge.
Are regulators or lawmakers looking into doing something about this or regulating them somehow?
Yes, so the U.S. Department of Agriculture has publicly committed to take further action around this issue. In 2017, they put out guidance stating that school districts are mandated to be more transparent and to actively inform parents that there should always be a fee-free option. They should always be able to pay by cash or check. But I think this report from the CFPB really highlights that these government agencies are taking this seriously and are scrutinizing these companies for their practices, which maybe don't adhere with the spirit of the law.
Well, what advice or what would you say to parents who have to deal with this?
Yeah, I would definitely say be aware that federal policy states that you should always be able to pay by cash or by check to avoid these fees. And then there have been examples of school districts where the districts themselves have successfully negotiated down the fees in their contracts with the payment processing companies. So if you're a parent and you can talk to your school district administrators about other possibilities, even of the district itself covering the fees rather than those costs being passed on to parents, those are some options.
Cora Lewis of the Associated Press, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Climate change is making extreme weather events like wildfires, floods, and hurricanes more frequent and more severe. And beyond the direct effects, there can be deadly secondary effects. Ali Rogan explores one that became especially evident after some of this season's worst storms.
It's a gas with no odor, no taste, and no color, but if not detected, it can be deadly. Carbon monoxide, or CO, is released after burning fuels like those used to run a power generator. Scientists now say that CO poisonings are on the rise amid widespread power outages following extreme weather events. A recent report in ProPublica details the devastating impact this summer's Hurricane Beryl had on increasing the number of carbon monoxide poisonings in Texas. ProPublica's Lexi Churchill wrote the story. Lexi, thank you so much for being here. What is the link between the use of generators and the risk of carbon monoxide poisoning?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. So, this link is something that the Consumer Product Safety Commission has actually been studying for decades. So, we know a lot about what we know now from them. In the time that they've been studying this connection, they found that portable generators actually lead to about 70 deaths every year, which makes portable generators one of the most dangerous devices that consumers can buy on the market today. In fact, the commission has found that no other device has killed as many people from carbon monoxide poisoning as portable generators have. And the reason why they're so dangerous is because these sometimes very small devices, just one of them can emit as much carbon monoxide gas as hundreds of cars can combined. So many of them also do not have a sort of automated switch to turn off once those levels become dangerous.
So why are we seeing this increase in poisoning if we've known about the risks for many decades?
So we know from climate scientists that these extreme weather events are becoming more frequent, leading to widespread power outages that can last weeks, affecting millions of people and leave folks in the summer in the heat, trying to stave off of heat deaths, in the winter, trying to stave off hypothermia deaths as well. So we're seeing the opportunity for folks to use these portable generators increase. And we also see that after these extreme weather events, the purchase of portable generators continue to spike, which only furthers this cycle.
And your story alludes to some people who put their portable generators very close to their house. Why are people doing that, and are the risks of doing that well spelled out for folks?
So this family has actually been using a portable generator for years. They live close to Houston, so they've lived through several hurricanes, the winter storm in 2021 that caused huge widespread outages, and they're used to using this generator safely. They haven't had any issues before. So this is a family that knows the risks, knows they need to keep a generator 20 feet from their home, and just in this one instance made the mistake of moving it slightly closer. And they put it under their porch in anticipation of rain from the hurricane to keep the generator safe so their power could continue to run. Unfortunately, that led to all three family members being hospitalized and having to be treated by the most extreme level, considering that doctors told them they were minutes away from dying. So we see instances like this of families who do know the risks that maybe make a simple mistake, but we also see a lot of families that don't understand the dangers of these portable generators or other devices like running a car in your enclosed garage and other instances like that that can also emit dangerous levels of carbon monoxide.
The families you profile in your story were in Texas, which has relatively lax requirements when it comes to carbon monoxide poisonings. Is there a correlation between the increase in poisonings and states that do not have strong detector regulations?
So I would make one slight point there. When we first started reporting on this in 2021, after the winter storm Uri I mentioned before, at that point, Texas did not have any statewide requirement, which was one of only a handful of states at the time that didn't have any protections. Since Winter Storm Uri, they've passed an updated code that now requires CO detectors in some new buildings and renovated buildings as well, which of course is only a fraction of buildings in the state and leaves millions and millions of homes unprotected. So this isn't something I've seen has been directly studied, but certainly public health officials tell us that carbon monoxide detectors are the only surefire way to prevent these poisonings. As you mentioned at the beginning, you cannot smell this gas, you cannot see it. There is no way to sense it other than whether a carbon monoxide detector tells you the levels are growing to be more dangerous. So certainly advocates tell us that the common sense solution is to pass further requirements to require these in every home. The correlation hasn't totally been studied, but that's what public health experts tell us.
What do policymakers say who are arguing against regulating and requiring carbon monoxide detectors? These are cheap things that could save your life.
So it's funny because you don't really see a lot of arguments against these requirements, but you don't really see anyone carrying this issue so that it has become law. It's not something that's really captured state lawmakers' attention as far as we can tell. In the aftermath of Winter Storm Uri, instead, Texas state lawmakers have focused on the underlying issue, which of course is the grid, the power grid, and making sure that that continues running well. So that there aren't these major power outages. But we haven't seen one lawmaker, at least in public, champion this issue of carbon monoxide poisoning and therefore put forth solutions for carbon monoxide detectors. So we haven't seen many lawmakers come out against this solution necessarily, but we haven't seen any that have brought it forward either.
Lexi Churchill with ProPublica, thank you so much.
Thank you.
The 2024 Paralympics for Athletes with Disabilities is underway at the same Paris venues that hosted Olympic events earlier in August. One of the more than 4,000 competitors is closing in on a remarkable achievement: the most track and field medals in either the Olympics or Paralympics for either men or women. In tonight's Weekend Spotlight, meet Team USA wheelchair racer Tatiana McFadden. Amid the early morning joggers on a suburban Maryland high school track on a humid summer morning is one of the most honored Paralympic athletes in history, wheelchair racer Tatiana McFadden.
There's still a mindset that disability is taboo. And so sports allowed me to say, hey, I can become an athlete, a professional athlete.
Every week, she covers about 100 miles as she trains for this year's Paralympic Games in Paris. When you're going around the track, what's your mindset? What's in your head?
I'm really thinking about what I need to do during that race, who my competitors are, what lane am I in, how's the wind, how am I going to start the race, how am I going to finish the race.
Finishing training on the track isn't the end of her day. She loads up her racing wheelchair and heads to a gym to work out with weights.
People with disabilities are a part of every culture and every subculture. And so, when you see someone with a disability, you don't have to stare so much or assume what they can't do.
Her grueling regimen may be challenging, but she's faced challenges all her life. She was born in the Soviet Union with spina bifida, a birth defect of the spine that's left her paralyzed from the waist down. Doctors told her mother that an orphanage was the best option for Tatiana to get the care she needed, but she got no specialized medical attention.
I got around by scooting inches above the floor or walking on my hands. That's all I knew at the time until the 6th year, and my life completely changed.
That's when Deborah McFadden came into her life. One of the authors of the Americans with Disabilities Act, she visited the orphanage as U.S. Commissioner of Disabilities. Afterward, she says she couldn't stop thinking about Tatiana and went back several times to see her. Eventually, she adopted her. That opened up possibilities that 6-year-old Tatiana had never imagined.
I could dream for the first time, because living in the orphanage, you weren't taught to dream. You were just taught to survive.
Arriving in America, she got her first wheelchair.
That was the start of everything. I loved it. I was trying to push as fast as I could. It just felt like freedom.
To build up her poor health, Deborah and her now wife, Bridget O'Shaughnessy, got Tatiana into sports: basketball, sled hockey, swimming, gymnastics. But it was wheelchair racing that appealed to her, and she began competing when she was 7. In 2004, she qualified for that year's Paralympics in Athens. Up against older, more experienced athletes, the 15-year-old won silver and bronze medals. She came home a decorated athlete, only to be turned away by her high school track team.
When you go into high school, they tell you to get involved, right? And I didn't want to do anything else besides track. I was getting in line for the uniforms, and then they wouldn't give me one. going to the track meets. They wanted to stop the entire track meet, have me go around, and then continue the track meet. And it felt really humiliating.
Deborah sued the school system for discrimination and won.
That was the moment where I found my why, in my advocacy. I have a younger sister, Hannah. She's also a wheelchair racer, and I thought, if they're denying me, they're absolutely going to deny her and the generations after me. So I need to be the voice. I need to be the game changer in this.
That gives Tatiana a goal beyond just personal achievement.
I am competing for every single person that has been discriminated against, that's still being discriminated against. Sports, for me, it brought healing. So that's what I want to bring to the other generations, as well as equality and equity for people with disabilities.
She pushed for the passage of Maryland's Tatiana's Law, which guarantees students with disabilities equal access to school sports. That led to a U.S. Education Department mandate extending that to all schools across the country. Does each one have a memory, a specific memory?
It does, yeah.
In 6 Paralympic Games, Tatiana has won 20 medals, 8 of them gold, but only 19 are for wheelchair racing. When the 2014 Winter Games were awarded to Sochi in her native Russia, she was intent on going. She took up cross-country skiing and won a silver medal. That she did it on Russian soil had special meaning.
It made a statement without me even saying anything, that I survived through the conditions that I should never survive.
Adding to her medal count at the Paris Games could bring a big career milestone. 3 more medals, and she'll be the most decorated track and field athlete in the Olympics or Paralympics, male or female. Is that something that's on your mind?
It is. It's something that is definitely on my mind and a really big motivator for Paris. It's going to be really cool to be just part of the history books, and knowing that I can do it is even better.
It adds to her determination to be on the track every morning, training for her 7th Paralympics. Is it still as exciting and sort of buzzing with anticipation?
You know what it is, because every Games is getting more exciting, more competitive, but the media and the sponsorships and the equality in the sport is really growing. So it's really fun and exciting. I feel like I'm in my 20s again. I love it.
Tatiana's first opportunity for a medal comes tomorrow in the 800-meter race. And that is PBS News Weekend for this Saturday. I'm John Yang. For all of my colleagues, thanks for joining us. See you tomorrow.
Major funding for PBS News Weekend has been provided by
Consumer Cellular, this is Sam. How may I help you? This is a pocket dial. Well, somebody's pocket.
Thought I'd let you know that with Consumer Cellular,
You get nationwide coverage with no contract. That's kind of our thing.
have a nice day.
and with the ongoing support of these individuals and institutions. This program was made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
You're watching PBS.